What up? All right, you guys, what is going on? This is Blaze over here at the Blue Chip Athletic Club podcast, and we are, as you can see, not in the studio today. We will be doing this podcast mobile. Nala's with us here as we're walking, as we talk with our buddy Jack. Before we kind of get going, I just want to make sure I shout out our partners over at First Form. Thank you guys for what you do and partnering with us for all of our supplements and goodies. We're super stoked to premiere a bunch of new programs here coming out. I'll do a quick plug for our newest one that we're kind of beta testing right now with some select few people. It's called the Couch to 5K program. Really exciting, talking about kind of like ways that you can get your body moving if you've been sitting on a couch and be able to train for a 5K. So we're super stoked to be able to premiere that here, most likely towards the end of the year. And then outside of that, we're going to get this thing going with Jack. So real quick, dude, sorry for that little intro there. I just got to make sure I throw that stuff down. But wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of start off with, hey, origin story. You can go as far back as you want. And then we can get into how we got connected kind of along the way. So hit it, man. I'm ready.
Awesome. Yeah. My name's Jack. Grew up in Northern California, in a small town just outside of Sacramento called Davis. Grew up playing sports, going to school, graduated from Davis Senior High School, got into rowing my sophomore year. It's kind of just like I was not really into any sports, and my mom kind of forced me into doing something. Didn't like soccer, didn't like track, didn't really like baseball. So rowing was kind of like where I got pushed into because my older sister did it. And then thank God I did, because I graduated from high school and then got on at the University of Washington men's rowing team, rowed there for 4 years from 2018 to 2022, graduated, and then was pretty over the Seattle weather, moved out to Hawaii in summer or fall of 2022. And I've been living out here, working on boats. And about 2 years ago, after the Lahaina fires happened, decided that I wanted to make a change, not really work in tourism anymore. And so I threw my name in the hat for officer candidate school at the Coast Guard, kind of set my sights on becoming a pilot. And that's kind of where we're at now. I'm leaving. It's Friday now. I'm leaving on Sunday for OCS. Starts Tuesday morning in New London. So,
dude, what a wild turn of events you've kind of had. From, we can get into it a little bit more, but like how you went from college, living out there, and then essentially being like in the tourism like world fully, and then now working towards something that's just so drastically different. It's super cool to see, and ironically enough, we ended up meeting through a mutual friend, Dan Hunt. Shout out to that guy for kind of connecting us, because it was really, really cool. He basically like texted me out of the blue and was like, hey, I have this guy that I know who's interested in flying and interested in like the Coast Guard in general. And do you mind if I give him your phone number? I was like, yeah, sure. I figured he probably wouldn't have asked if he didn't like you in the first place. But it was super, super cool to be able to get connected with you. And then I'm excited for you too, leaving for your, we'll call boot camp / indoctrination journey here in the next couple of days, which is super exciting, change of pace for you.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be good. Really stoked.
Yeah. Dude, so tell me, like, you were a kid growing up and you're like, yeah, crew is like, what's it at? Like, you had your older sibling that was super into rowing, and you just decided like that was going to be the thing that kind of got you going. Like, how did that kind of kick off? And I do want to say, from meeting you and having you here, ladies and gentlemen, Jack is probably like, what are you, like 6'2", 6'3"? You're probably pretty tall, yeah.
6'3". Yeah.
6'3" and like a lean like 190. So he's definitely like built for I'd say like to be a swimmer, to be a rower, or something like that, but curious outside of like just like identifying like, hey, yep, if it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. For the fact that you're just kind of like built for that sport. But tell me what was the initial draw? Because like doing sports in college is like, I would say it's probably becoming even less popular nowadays because kids just kind of want to go and hang out with their friends and party and
Yeah.
whatnot, and it's definitely more of a draw on you too. So tell me a little bit about like your journey with crew.
Yeah. Um, it honestly it started when my parents were out of town, and I had just kind of been slacking for like a year or two, like hadn't really done any sports. I played a little bit of soccer growing up, tried to do club. I didn't really fit in with that super well, and so I was just playing like AYSO. I did like a season of track. Um, Baseball was fun, but I got hit when I was really little, and so I was like scared of the ball and just not like baseball was not a good fit for me. And then yeah, what else? I don't know. It was just like my sister was super successful with it. Shout out to her. She she rode for Cal, so Berkeley down in the Bay, and they have a pretty solid, men's and women's program on the West Coast. They're like one of the only two like really competitive rowing programs on the West Coast, and the other really competitive rowing program is the University of Washington in Seattle, and they have a super big rivalry that goes back close to 100 years now, if not over 100 years. Um, and So it's kind of funny that we each went to one of the rivalry schools. Um, but yeah, my parents were out of town, and so I was my grandma was watching over me. And the morning I was supposed to go to the first crew practice, I like pretended to be sick because I was like, dude, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't. I was like, Grandma, I just threw up. Like, and my parents must have told her something because um, she was like, no, you're going. Like, I don't. That's. I mean, sucks that you threw up, but you're going. and so, and so she pushed me to go, and I kind of just like bit the bullet and just leaned into it. And that was the first time I think in my life that I like leaned into something that I really didn't like want to do at all. But I showed up and I was one of the tallest guys there, and I also had like an kind of like a mentor, like an older friend that we knew from high school, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Because if you have someone that like in the sport, then uh, that can kind of guide you in a way, it makes it way more appealing, and you like want to show up to practice and stuff. So I totally leaned into it, and I rode for the River City Rowing Club in West Sac for out of the Port of Sacramento for my first 2 years, and then I switched over my senior year of high school. I got invited to a development camp with U.S. Rowing after my second year, and that was out in Maine. And so I went there for like 5 or 10 weeks over the summer. Forget how long that program was, but that's really where I made like some connections with some boys that like wanted to take the sport, to the next level. And um, I came back, switched programs to a more competitive program, and yeah, that coach that I had, shout out Ben Hayes in high school. He used to coach the women's team at University of Washington. He was an assistant coach up there for a couple years, and so yeah, he was basically like for the guys that are seniors, if you want to row at a high level, like on the West Coast in college, you got to check out University of Washington. And so I kind of set my sights on that. I had a couple other friends on the team that were interested in rowing in college at UW, and 2 out of 3 of us got recruited. I did not get recruited to row at the University of Washington, but they do have like a kind of like an invite tryout program. So when you come in, everyone's a freshman, or everyone that's a freshman has to try out, and everyone has to try out every year, no matter what. But yeah, just kind of like sent it up there with no promise that I was going to make the team, and things kind of worked out and panned out. So
Yeah, dude. And what division are they for rowing? I guess I should probably know this, but they're a big school, no? So are they D1?
yeah, it's D1. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, how cool is that? And then not only, I mean, you essentially like walked onto the team. I mean, you got like the nod to like come out and test it out, I guess. But like you also like walked onto the team, tried out and made it, which is super, super
Yeah.
cool to be able to say that you did that, at that kind of a level too. And then you did it for a full 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I rode for 4 years. So that was first 2 years were that first year, yeah. So everybody has to try out, and so you have. I mean, I think the team now has probably close to like 40 or 50 dudes, and each class has between like 10 and 15 people. And the freshman class is usually the biggest with close to 20 people. So that leaves like 25, 30 split between, sophomore, junior, senior. And that's just because it's I forget what they call it, but it's like it's one of those teams where you push from the bottom, right? So you always want like the slowest guys and the weakest guys like pushing the stronger and the faster guys to get faster. Um and Yeah, no, I think I mean, they've been incredibly successful these last few years. When I was there, we couldn't row my sophomore year in because of COVID. COVID came through and kind of wiped out the whole season. And then junior year was 2020 to 2021. We still rode, but it was under like really crummy circumstances because we had to like practice with masks on, and like it was just and then it was like the whole quarantining really was uh tough because it was like you weren't supposed to hang out with people outside of your house. So it was just
Dude,
like you're going to practice, doing class at home, and then you're going to practice again. It was like so brutal.
I will tell you, like, I feel like there's nothing worse than the people that were athletes or going through college during COVID. Like, you guys,
Yeah,
I feel like
it
just got
sucks.
absolutely gypped, dude. Like, you got gypped every experience. On a quick aside, like, a lot of the
Yeah,
guys that went to our school, obviously, like, I played lacrosse with those guys.
yeah,
And that were in the class of 2020. They were freshmen when I was a senior, so I like knew them a decent bit. Um, and I get like a message from those guys that are like, "Yeah, we're graduating," and like grad week at our school was like electric, dude. Everybody basically got in to like a bunch of room like homes, and then like you would like stay and see everybody's family or meet some of them for the first time. It's a huge block party essentially. And They were like, "Yeah, we're doing grad week, blah blah blah," and they're like, they had to graduate via Zoom, like with like raising their hand, like as like part of their like oath and everything. And I was just like, man, how crummy! They all missed out on their whole season of sports, which I'm guessing you probably missed out on some of yours too, if I had to guess.
yeah.
And I
Oh
just
yeah.
like, dude, I felt so bad. Like there was nothing that kept me going more than like being able to play sports in school. And I just feel like it would have been really, really tough to be, I don't know, motivated or feel like it was like, what am I even doing here? It'd have been tough.
Yeah. No, dude, it was definitely the hardest year. That 2020 to 21 season was like very difficult because you didn't have your social outlets like outside of like the people you lived with. So it was pretty tough to like uh just kind of stay in it. But it was also a really rewarding year because we ended up winning the national championship in 2021. So that was
That's a
cool.
gold medal, ladies and gents. That's what's up, dude.
So
I will say too. That's awesome too. By the way, I had no idea that you did that, so I'm glad that you brought that up. Um, the other thing I feel like that's definitely like worthwhile mentioning is like think about um, the social aspect of it too. Like you're in this like critical developmental phase of life where like some of your collegiate friends like become like your best friends for a while, or maybe like lose touch. But a lot of those guys are like homies that'll be probably at you and your wife's wedding and like stuff like that, or you and your fiance's wedding. But I just feel like you're missing out on so many of those opportunities in times where other people got. So anybody who says they had a hard college time, I'll say I was blessed, and you definitely got dealt the short straw for sure. But dude, I want to pivot a little bit and talk about like, dude, you're like going from doing dive photography to attempting to go through officer candidate school, and we can like kind of touch on a little bit about what that means for anybody who doesn't know what that is. We can kind of hit on some of those things. I think together we should be able to kind of put two and two together to break it down. But you want to talk about like a complete pivot of lifestyle, of freedoms, of work schedule. Like, tell me a bit about like the motivational drivers and the things that like brought you to that decision, because that's obviously how we got connected, and then obviously how you kind of find yourself, what are you, 4 days away from essentially starting boot camp up?
Last dude, yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. 4 days. Yeah. Well, I don't really like half-ass anything. So if I'm gonna dive into something, I want to be like at the top level of whatever it is. And after like I've kind of mentioned before, it was like right after the Lahaina fires happened, on Maui. Things just like weren't the same here. I'd been working in tourism for almost a year, just working on boats as like a deckhand, and also, um, my now fiance had like gotten me certified up to take people scuba diving or snuba diving. Shout out to snuba. It's kind of like uh, your intro to diving.
Dude,
If
you
you're
need to explain that. What is snuba?
okay.
What is that,
Okay.
dude?
So think about like if you have a little raft on the surface, it's a little inflatable raft. It holds a scuba tank inside of it, and it has two hoses that come out the front, and they connect to basically two people, right? They're regulators that come down and go into your mouth. So you're like on a leash towing a scuba tank at the surface. So two people share a tank. Dives aren't
Dude,
as
that's
long.
so legit. That's super legit.
But what's great about it is that if you're under 10 years old, you can be as young as 8 and still go snuba diving. That's with an N if it's hard to hear. Snuba.
Dude, I am gonna write that down. Snuba diving. Next time I'm in a tropical location, maybe I'll just hit you up, dude. You
Check it
it's a
out.
lifelong cert or what? Tell me about it.
A life what?
Is it a lifelong certification? Like it's not
Oh
something that
yeah.
expires?
Yeah, no, I don't think it ever. Okay, you don't get certified to go snuba diving. There's no certification required, which is why it's an awesome thing to have on snorkel boats, because in order to go scuba diving, you need to pay either exorbitant amounts of money out of pocket. I think like Discover Scuba Dives are like somewhere around $400 or $300 to do a Discover Scuba Dive. Snuba costs anywhere from 75 to $100, depending on the boat company you go with. You get basically the same experience. You're not maybe going as deep, but you can get a really great experience out here in Maui at like 10 to 15 feet, which is awesome because a lot of people have trouble like equalizing their ears. Or it's for people maybe that aren't I've taken non-swimmers scuba diving. So anyways, a little aside on that.
Dude,
That's what I
I will
go
say
ahead.
I love the aside because I feel like I'm gonna be Snuba's #1 fan now. So
Yeah.
we'll be chatting offline about some more Snuba. But tell me, keep going with the how you
Yeah.
walked into this whole desire to be a Coast Guard officer thing.
Yeah, so I like I was saying, like when I go into something, I want to go into it head on and like just do it to the max. That's how I kind of ended up out here in Maui. Another little aside, how I ended up out here. I was supposed to sail here with my dad after college. I was supposed to sail to Oahu, and we got caught in a well, we didn't get caught in a storm. The mainsail ripped 300 miles off the coast of San Francisco, so we turned around, went back. I flew out to Oahu, lived with a friend. Shout out Michael Todd. I lived on his boat for a couple weeks. came over to Maui. I was into kite surfing, so I figured, why not live somewhere where you can kite surf year round. Moved out here, started working on snorkel boats, had the job lined up, and then I met Claire, my now fiance. We worked for the same company. She gave me all my all my all my scuba certs at a very reasonable price.
Oh,
And,
dude, you were working it, dude. She was. I had no idea.
she's a scuba instructor. Yeah. Um and uh yeah, so I started working on the boats, doing that, and then things kind of took a pivot after the fires happened. We had planned on going to New Zealand for a couple months to take a trip, kind of just the two of us, ride around in a van. Before this was all planned before, well in advance, before the fires happened. Fires happened August 8th, 2023, and we left to go to New Zealand. We had a trip planned for October through November. So we extended that trip and spent some time, in California visiting family in September, skydiving a bunch, having a good time. And then when we were in New Zealand, she kind of brought up to me like, "Hey, I can kind of tell that you're not, you know, like this isn't enough for you. Like working out here in tourism, like doing snuba, this isn't like what is it that you want to actually do, like for a career for the rest of your life?" And I sat with that question for like a couple days. We would continue to talk about it, and I really like ultimately decided that I wanted to go into search and rescue. And what I kind of fell back to was like, I don't know if it was watching The Guardian or it was just because the Coast Guard had always been in the back of my mind. Because I don't think I watched The Guardian until like just a couple years ago. But I decided that it was either going to be firefighting or the Coast Guard. And if I wanted to Coast Guard, I either wanted to go become a pilot or a helicopter pilot specifically, or become a rescue swimmer. And I had an interview lined up. Let's see, the following year, I had an interview with the Seattle Fire Department. Let me back up a little bit, because when we came back from New Zealand, we met with a couple of Claire's friends on Oahu, Johnny and Hillary. Shout out to those guys. Johnny's was a mechanic at Barbers Point, on Oahu. And so I kind of sat down and talked with him when we came back and we were on our layover about like going into the Coast Guard and becoming a pilot versus becoming a rescue swimmer. And he was like, "Oh, dude, you got to become a rescue swimmer. Like, it's such a badass job. Like, it's like really intense training." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds like super legit, and I'm definitely down." It sounds like the less violent side of like becoming a Navy SEAL or something like that. Because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go into any of the branches where I could get like shot down and killed or something like that. And the Coast Guard was like, "Cool, we stay domestic, and we don't have to really worry about getting shot down." So that's kind of how I ended up like falling into the Coast Guard, because it was like search and rescue. And I know other branches do search and rescue too, but it was like that's like kind of the whole mission here.
Yeah, and it's really nice to go to your job and then not get shot at, for sure. I agree.
Yeah. And then so I kind of started networking after that. Shout out Chris Austin down in Air Station San Diego. I started talking with him. Shout out Ernie Child too. He's a rescue swimmer at Barbers Point. I actually ended up flying over to Barbers Point and training with those guys, the rescue swimmers, and I was just like, dude, I got my butt kicked. Those guys train hard, and like the most amount of respect to those guys, because it's just that's a job you can't really fake or get around. Like, I like to describe it as free diving with like a really high heart rate. So if you've ever like trained for free diving, it's like all about keeping your heart rate real low. Yeah, rescue swimming is like, let's do a ton of exercise, elevate the heart rate, and then like put you under the water and make you hold your breath for like a minute or two. So
all right. Well, sorry for the technical difficulties. I literally like right mid story, which is this huge bummer. My phone was like, "Oh, you've overheated," and there's obviously no way that I could tell you like, "Hey, I overheated and I got booted out of this thing because my phone wouldn't let me use it." So it was. But you were saying that you went to
There you go.
Oahu, and then you were chatting with one of the maintainers there, and he wanted you to be a rescue swimmer, and you were kind of like into that. Like, tell me, we'll pick up right where we left off with the story. Hit me.
Yeah. No, so I was chatting with Johnny Walker, and yeah, he was saying like, oh, you should go rescue swimmer, and then I was also asking about like pilot, like what are the routes for going pilot too, and he's like, all right, well, it's funny. I was like, don't you have to be like super? You got to be like super into math, like really smart to become like a pilot in the military. And he was like, nah. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I know a lot of guys that like, yeah, da. And I was just like, oh wow, maybe I can do this. Maybe like I can
Let me,
I can put my head
yeah.
down and grind and
Let me dispel any rumors even before you get too far down the rabbit hole, dude. Um, I love saying this to people, dude. Don't forget they put monkeys in space, bro. Like flying a plane cannot be that hard, right? Like those guys went to literally outer space. Like they yeah, and remember, like most airline pilots, you're basically just flying a bus, man. You're like a super overpaid bus driver. That is the reality of what you do. So yeah, it is definitely not something that
yeah,
you require any sort of mathematical ability. I mean, maybe it'll help, but yeah. All right, continue.
yeah. Here and there. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, I kind of sat with that for a little bit. I went back to Barber's Point, trained with the rescue swimmers there for a day, and got to kind of check out Barber's Point as a whole. And then yeah, I was actually like getting pretty close to enlisting and wanting to go AST. I went uh over and did like the prerequisite physical fitness test over there. But I had this like looming feeling in the back of my brain that was like, like I actually might also want to become a helicopter pilot. So I put up a post on like the commissioning, like Coast Guard commissioning, and I was like, what would it look like to like become a rescue swimmer and then later in the career become a helicopter pilot? And it's like it's doable, but I was already 24, I'm 25 now. It wouldn't be as simple as I thought it would be. And so I kind of pivoted in a way. I had a phone call with a family friend who's a 65 flight instructor down in Mobile, and he kind of pushed me in the direction of becoming a pilot, because he's like, hey man, like what do you want to do after like the Coast Guard? Because if you become a rescue swimmer, you're not guaranteed that you're not going to get hurt. You're not guaranteed like either in training or on the job. And then you're also like when you get out, you can, I mean, good chance you can go into firefighting if your body's still like functioning at a high level, or other like, but it's a very niche job where there's not a lot
Dude,
of
so niche. You're like
translation.
you're like the most overqualified lifeguard on the face of planet Earth,
Yeah,
right? Like you are
exactly.
literally like, yeah, dude, you are gonna be like the best lifeguard that's ever lived, um, wherever you go, and that's great. And you could be like an EMT. But yeah, dude, that's awesome wisdom from that guy. I don't know who he was, but to ask you
Yeah,
kind of
Caleb.
like, okay, like what, think like 1, 2, 3 steps down the line too of what you kind of want your life to look like.
Exactly. Yeah, that was Caleb Robards down in Mobile, Alabama. My parents' neighbor's son. Funny enough. But anyways, um yeah, I was just like, okay, well I guess I'm gonna like just keep putting my name in the hat for OCS. So I applied, I interviewed in like April of 24, didn't get picked up on the first round, put my name in the hat again in the fall, did my interview again, had a way better interview the second time, which is hilarious because the second interview was over Zoom and the first interview was in person. And I like flew over to Barbers Point, or not to Barbers Point, but I flew over to, it was at the inspections building. But I was like, I don't know, it was tough. And then, but you never know how you're gonna read on a panel, and I don't know, it's a good learning experience, at least just like kind of get all the shakes out the first time, and then that second interview was hilarious because I had my laptop sitting on two pillows, so it was like at eye level with me like this, and I was wearing like a full suit like in my house. um
Not been wearing the pants, dude. That would have been a power move. It's Zoom power moves. It's just the tops only.
I know, dude. That could have been the play. But I had a great interview. It felt good coming out of it too. I was just like, wow, I felt like that went really well. I really connected with those people. And then, and not in like a fake way. Like it felt like, which is really ironic because it was like virtual interview. But yeah, interview went well. Shout out to also Jimmy Doherty, who wrote me a letter of rec, 60 pilot in the Navy. And man, like, I think the combination of switching a couple things up for that second packet really, like, went a long way. And I got a phone call first or second week of January 2024, or no, 2025, that I'd been like picked up and selected. And was supposed to leave in April, but due to some unforeseen medical circumstances, we got pushed back to September, which is okay, because it also gave more time for my flight physical to get cleared up. But not to digress too hard into all that stuff. We're here now, and I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah,
Nothing
dude.
they can do now.
So, yeah, right. They already said yes. Where should we- So tell me a little bit, like, from what you know, and then I'll try and like kind of fill in the gaps of what do you know
Yeah.
about what you're about to get into, officer candidate school, being an officer in the military. Honestly, like from me talking to you, obviously in other discussions, you are much more knowledgeable about what you're getting into than I ever was as a kid. Whenever I ended up going into the Coast Guard myself. But for anybody who doesn't understand, like, tell me a little bit about like what that kind of looks like, um, officer candidate school, and then like what your job would entail versus if you did go enlist. We can kind of fill in a couple of those gaps for anybody who's listening.
Yeah. Well, specifically, like, I don't know, more generally, I think officers, being an officer in any branch of the military is more of a leadership role. So I think typically you're given kind of like a group of enlisted personnel that you're responsible for, and you kind of all work together. Sometimes you're working with somebody that might have been in the Coast Guard for a lot longer than you. Maybe they enlisted when they were 18 and they're in their like mid 40s now, and you're like a 25 to 30-year-old that just went through OCS, or you're graduating from the academy or something like that. And it's all about, seems like it's just all about working together and like, yeah, just being a good leader. And especially, I guess, I know more about like the aviation side of things because that's what I want to go into. But you're essentially the final shot caller for like whatever mission you're on. And I don't really know how much maintenance. I don't really know if pilots do that much maintenance, but I think it's really important to kind of be on good terms with your maintainers, because those are the guys keeping the rig sharp and clean. And yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, pilots are the ones that get everybody home safely. So
Yeah, dude, you basically
yeah.
hit the nail on the head, right? Like most of the time, the officer role is more so like, hey, leadership based. Maybe you've got a group of a group of people that are working for you, especially as you become more and more senior. And then ironically enough, the a personal story, I think, is the best way to describe this. So
Yeah.
I went to my commissioning source was the Coast Guard Academy, and Jack is about to go to a commissioning source that's called Officer Candidate School. Not that it necessarily matters, but you end up leaving that training program as what they call an ensign in the military, i.e., like the most junior officer that exists on the officer side. But you are senior to every single other enlisted person that's in the military, even the guy who's been in for 30 years. And for me, that person that I was senior to was my dad when I graduated, which was super ironic that my dad had been in the service for 20 some odd years and he still was in. And even though he just retired this past year, technically he would have had to call me sir and salute me down the hallway, or outside. And I always used to bust his balls for it. But the reality is that you're in charge of all these people, and inevitably the final shot caller. Now, the reality is that you lean on the experience of all those people because they're, for aviation specifically, those guys are the subject matter expert for their specific field. They're plane mechanics, they're plane electricians, they're survival specialists, like the rescue swimmer guys. Like those dudes have been doing X, Y, or Z job for however long. Just like they don't try to tell you how to fly a plane, you don't try and tell them how to turn a wrench or maintain an aircraft, right? That's kind of the way it is. But those guys definitely do rely on you for sure. So it's interesting, the difference in job. I will say, like, you didn't really touch on it a lot, but there's definitely a huge difference in pay as well, that I think is something of note, like for anybody listening that's interested in doing what Jack is doing. Like, I personally think that our enlisted personnel do not get paid nearly enough. If you look at the pay charts, anybody can Google what a enlisted person or officer actually makes, for that matter, in the military. It's definitely not enough, in my opinion, because there's a huge disparity where a 21-year-old officer in the Coast Guard versus a 21-year-old, we'll call it an E4 or a petty officer enlisted guy, makes is drastically different. And that's pretty tough for those guys too. So some people are driven by the money, want to chase the bag. Some people want to, lead people, which I would say, inevitably those are going to be the people that are better for the organization. And yeah, I'm stoked that you kind of came to the decision on your own, and you're sitting there kind of at the cusp of, like, we do one of these at the pre officer candidate school spot, and then we'll do a post one to see, your nice buzz shaved head and how you feel after finishing. I have no doubt that you'll make it through. And then eventually ended up going to flight training. We just don't know when that'll happen. And I don't know, if you want to share a little bit about it before I kind of head back, you can talk through your medical snafu if you want. But Jack had a lot of hoops to jump through, and I'll say, from somebody watching him, he's super dedicated and motivated to do it. But if you want to be doing something in your life, you got to take full responsibility for it. And you definitely, oh boy, sorry, there's a lawnmower going off right next to me. So
Oh, you're
talk
good.
through that a little bit. And then we'll kind of cap it off after that story.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, basically, if you're if you're looking to if you're looking to go to flight school out of OCS as a civilian, be prepared for I would say like close to 6 to 9 months worth of just kind of waiting around, and be prepared to make like a couple calls every week, because I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the way the organization is set up, but you might not be taken seriously at first, or you're probably not, on the at the top of someone's list, especially as a civilian. You're not in. You don't have like a CAC card or military ID or anything like that. You don't have a rate or a rank. You're just some random like Joe Blow calling in, asking about something. So I mean, it worked out for me. I ended up calling 3 different air stations. Blaze was a huge help in trying to get stuff sorted out. Unfortunately, where he was stationed at, the ball didn't really ever get rolling there. But a huge learning experience if you just keep calling around and keep trying to network and just kind of vouch for yourself and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. I've heard it from a bunch of people a million different times. Like, eventually the door is gonna crack and it's gonna fall down, or that squeaky wheel is gonna get the grease it needs. So, um, yeah, I had to get some medical waivers for joining the Coast Guard, and it was taking some time. And just keep calling the air station, keep looking up phone numbers, ask for people's names too. Like, I think that's another way. Like, I think after calling the same place enough times, you're just like, hey, what's your name? Because the same voices are picking up. And the military, obviously, people are picking up, and they're told to say a certain thing when they pick up, like, where they, like, the air station they're at, their rank, their last name, I think, is typically what it is. And it's just like, hey man, this is Jack. I'm just calling back again about, like, my flight physical or whatever. So just treating them like humans, and trying to get the ball rolling there. It's very, very difficult. I know this is a very, like, specific experience, but if you want to become eligible to apply for flight school at OCS, you have to have a flight physical done before you show up. They're not doing them at the academy anymore. So if there's anyone listening about that's wanting to go to OCS in the Coast Guard or any other, I don't think this is in other branches at all, because they have direct paths. But in the Coast Guard, you don't have your position until after you go to OCS. So you have to have a flight physical done. If you need any waivers for broken bones or anything like that, then you're definitely going to need to get that sorted out before you go. And it's a long and lengthy process. And so,
Yeah,
again,
not to belabor
yeah,
that too much, but like I feel like this is just a general observation of big government or big federal government entities. It's like the amount of bureaucratic hoops that we have people jump through to be able to be successful or do something that they want to do is just can be very frustrating sometimes. And I think you kind of dealt with that firsthand to see kind of how those things are. But I think there's also silver lining in that of like, hey, you jump through XYZ hoops. We figured out how to do this thing, and you got to yes. And that, I think, is like so important and valuable for you as well, to just be like, yeah, dude, like we encountered some amount of like resistance. We had some amount of stuff go wrong. We had some amount of stuff go right, but we were able
yeah,
to figure out a way to get to yes. And the yes came, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go to flight school right away after you finish
yeah,
in however many weeks, 12 weeks or whatever the thing is. But what it does is it lets you compete. And I think I've told you this like a bunch of times in the last number of months,
yeah.
is like I get
Oh
really
yeah,
frustrated when someone isn't given the opportunity to compete. Like that's the biggest thing, is like all things being equal, if you have 100 dudes that are going to go put their name in the hat for this program, everybody should be given the same chance, and you shouldn't be medically having this thing that's like bureaucratic hoops, and being able to fill out paperwork should not be the thing that stops you. So for anybody that is listening or will listen to this at some point, like take charge of your own process. Jack did that like to the nth degree. Jack told me the other day that he called the same air station 57 times to try and get his medical process figured out. And
since
there's no
since May.
joke since May. And today is August the 29th. So just keep that in mind. Like sometimes it's not going to just take one call. It's going to take 57 calls to get to your yes. And that is something that can be done. And just don't accept no for an answer, because there is a way to make it happen most of the time, especially when it's something that small and insignificant. But Yeah, I digress, man. You've got an awesome story. I'm really excited to kind of watch your I don't know, I guess your Coast Guard journey, your time doing this thing. And then I know we've talked a bunch about it before today, but the reason that I kind of had you on is I feel like you just have an awesome story, a great attitude. You're somebody that I feel like has a lot to offer to the world, the organization in general. So I'm really excited to continue to watch you flourish and just absolutely crush the next little phase of life here, which is getting yelled at and uh, figuring out how to work as a team and build you down to break you back up. But just always remember, man, like you'll go in and I know we talked about it before, like it's going to be kind of weird and awkward at first in your boot camp experience, but you're gonna come out and you'll be thrown right back into life and be able to kind of start this new job and career out, which has been really really great for me, my family, and and all the things that it's given us. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Appreciate that. Thanks for having me on too. This has been a blast. It's like just a
Of course, dude.
just chat plays.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I hope that the podcast studio is back up. I neglected to say, but the reason that we're kind of, or maybe I did say it, but the reason that we're roving is because the studio is not quite set up in the house. It's still a construction zone everywhere. But I've been meaning to kind of get back out there myself and continue to have people on and record podcast episodes. So I know, Jack, we got cut off like in the middle there, and I'll probably try and mold the two episodes together. But I appreciate you for coming on, dude. And I know it's early Hawaii time and afternoon my time, but thanks again. And I'll be sending you over some love letters when you're out there in New London getting through your training program.
Yeah, dude, send it on over to Mohegan.
I got it. Yeah, see, you did it. You did it. All right, you
Get it,
guys.
dude.
Just that's it for this one. Just remember, you don't stop playing. You get old because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.